Welcome to the Regular People Podcast. There's a cat named Toast that's running around. Yes. Has his scampering little feet. Welcome to the Regular People Podcast. I am Wade Allen, and today I'm joined by RV.
Hello, thank you for having me. Toast is going to be a problem, maybe.
Yeah, if Toast is a problem because it's kind of a crazy cat, we might have to put her in a room. But then I'm worried if we put her in a room that you'll just hear a sad meowing in the background every 5 seconds for the 2 hours straight.
Yeah, that might be preferable than the booming, loud roars of pots falling over and other disturbances.
Yeah, thanks for coming on this episode.
Of course.
We had a few things we were going to talk about, but I feel like there was something you were saying right before we started recording that I thought was interesting. You're talking about Florida, how you went to a weird college. So that's one thing that I want to get to because I'm not sure what you were talking about, so I want to hear that. But first, usually, pretty much always, with people that it's their first time on the episode, I always ask them what their last 5 years has been like, what they've been up to, and how they've been and changed, and who are they as a person, who are you as a person, kind of thing. And I like to frame it in that 5-year question because I feel like asking the question, like, tell me about yourself. That's like more open-ended and hard to answer, and also uncomfortable to answer, like who likes talking about themselves in that way.
Yeah, I think that's perfect and a perfect transition into the Florida stuff too, because that's a vast majority of my last 5 years. Like that's a big part of it is Florida. And so straight out of high school, I moved to Florida. I went to a college called Full Sail University in Orlando, and it was an interesting experience. I wouldn't say a great or bad experience. It was something. It's a 2-year bachelor's degree program.
Okay.
Technically an art school. It's technically a technical school. Okay, so it is a nationally accredited, not regionally, which is where most universities would be accredited. It's nationally accredited.
Okay. Wait, so most universities are regionally but not nationally, or they're both?
They're regionally but not nationally.
Okay.
Well, I think I might have that wrong. They might be both, but I'm pretty sure that it's one or the other.
But this one that you went to was only national.
It was only national.
So like Florida doesn't recognize it?
Well, yeah, so certain schools in Florida do recognize it. But if I were to transfer, say, to Milwaukee, certain credits would not, wouldn't overlap. But so I chose this college kind of because I was in this place of like, I don't even know, if college is, the perfect decision straight out of high school for me. And then they offered me a large scholarship for my testing scores and all that. And then
you were an overachiever in high school?
Not particularly. That's the interesting thing. But my my writing ACT score was like good enough to receive like the highest value.
Okay, and they cared about like writing.
Over
other things.
Yeah. And my ACT score in general was pretty decent, But so they gave me like a $15,000 scholarship, which was like, boatloads more than any school was going to give me, So that was a big, reason that I chose to go.
How did that school even like get on your radar though?
They sent mail. They have a great marketing team.
Okay, so
if
they
nothing else,
sought you out, and that's how you learned about
yes,
them. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Full Sail, if nothing else, is great at recruiting. It's kind of like the military, like it's a shitty position to be in, but
I don't know. Like honestly, my mind has changed a lot about the military over the past like 10 years, where I feel like maybe it's like the thing to do.
Oh yeah. Well, one of our roommates, I don't know if you know this, but is in the National Guard.
Oh, okay.
And
that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, Kendall, and he is doing pretty well for himself, and he right now he's at boot camp actually for the remainder of the month, and then into
last weekend of the month.
Yeah, but the more and more that he talks about it, the more and more my ears start picking up on the money aspect of it is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like if you want to, I don't know, not have debt for like college and stuff and be kind of set up. And also, I'm sure really it looks good on any resume you could have. Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
you're in the military. That's like a bonus. And then there's this weird cult like kind of thing of like people that are in the military or like have automatic respect for you because you are also in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
military.
It's an automatic connection right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But
Um,
I don't know. I still couldn't get over the whole, being involved.
bootlicking thing.
Well,
Yeah.
definitely that, like the
Yeah.
hierarchy aspect. Like when you start, yeah, you've got to just be subservient.
Yeah, I
Not a
don't think I
fan.
could handle it. I really don't. But other than that, the like you said, the money aspect, like it's always intriguing. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, when I'm really feeling at the end of my rope, I'm like, maybe
Just join the military. Yeah,
fuck it.
you'll be set for a couple of years unless you die. But that's not that
Yeah,
likely.
well,
There's so many people in the military, and like a very small percentage of them, I feel like, actually are engaged in any sort of
yeah. I mean,
dangerous
I have
combat.
a comic friend of mine that just retired from the military at 22.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever saw active combat or active duty either. So
Yeah, like especially like National Guard, sign up for like what is it, like 4 like 7 years, and
yeah,
then you're basically just living in your state as a normal person for the most of the
scot
time.
free, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah.
They give you nice bonuses these days. If anybody's listening and feeling like they have no options.
I still feel like it's sinister what they do though, of like the recruiting like 17-year-olds like
Oh yeah.
right out of high school, like even in high school, like you're a junior, they're like, oh, just leave this high school, come join the
Mhm.
army, and we'll finish you up and everything.
Mhm.
It's like it seems like they're just preying on vulnerable populations.
Yeah. Well, Kendall actually had a job opportunity that they gave to him that was a social media manager for the National Guard, which, and it sounded great, like huge salary, and we're all talking about it. And then we're like, well, what would you be
Yeah.
doing? And he would be recruiting teenagers to go die overseas, which is
Right.
pretty cool, like that's a pretty
Rad.
cool job opportunity. But
Wait, so that got offered to him?
yeah. And
Is that still on the
it's
table?
still, I think it might be still on the table. It would be, he's still in school though, I
Okay.
feel like that's almost like a tactic of theirs, because he's in school and they're paying for it.
Yeah.
And you get X amount of years in school, but then you get a job, opportunity that's given to you by
Right.
the military. And it's almost like, well, you can continue your schooling or you can take this
Yeah.
military job, and then you're kind of like, what do you do? Like you're kind of cornered,
Right.
like to
You're just
re-sign
continuously,
contract or
in the military
yeah.
over and over and over. Yeah. So okay, Full Sail though, when they contacted you with their, marketing schemes, um, did you?
Boys.
Well, yeah. Did you like? Was it right away? Like, hey, we've got $15,000 for you, or did you have to like learn that over time?
I had to write like an essay,
Oh, okay.
and then based off of the essay,
Then
then they give the scholarship.
that makes sense.
But again, like it partly came down to me just being lazy and just not wanting to look into my options at all. And then
Yeah.
also like I was like, oh, like I want to go out of the state. I don't want to be in Wisconsin. And here seems like the perfect opportunity to like get a bunch of money knocked off and then also go see another state and like stay somewhere else. But it ended up being Orlando, Florida, which I don't know if you're like super.
I've been to Orlando like a handful
Yeah,
of times.
for like Disney and such.
Yeah, and I was in Orlando not that much, but for a day or two, a couple months ago, because my girlfriend's parents live in the Villages, which is like an hour away from
Oh
Orlando.
yeah. Have you been like to the city itself?
Not that much, no.
Yeah, it just.
I did an escape room there. That's about it.
Hey, that's that's fun. It's kind of soul crushing a little bit. Like Orlando as a city
Why?
it's a lot of strip malls, a lot of
Okay.
concrete.
Oh.
It's hot. It's really hot, and I wasn't like the biggest fan per se, but I met a lot of amazing people in Orlando, and I guess that kind of plays into like one of the topics that I was wanting to talk to you about too, is like life decisions, making big like life choices,
Yeah.
life altering choices, taking agency, I guess.
Right.
And I guess that was at a time where I really felt like I had agency over my life, and I
You
was
feel
like,
less so now?
well, no, not at all. I think that it honestly equipped me to have more, at least that experience, But
And yeah, that's probably not something most people do. I feel like it's more common for people to just go to in-state colleges and
yeah,
not make big moves like that.
yeah, and like it's easy to look back and be regretful of my nationally accredited school, and, but it was definitely an experience, and it did allow me like individualism in a way that I don't think I would have gained if I hadn't had done that. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think you've changed a lot then since I guess before and after going to
Yeah,
Florida?
yeah. I mean, like I moved there. I didn't know a soul there. I didn't know anyone in Orlando, and also Full Sail is a smaller school by like normal metrics, and at the time it was like the year after COVID, so it was 2020. I started, and we get there, and it was I had 5 people in my graduating class, like in my degree program,
In the program.
that we stuck with the entire time. Like I was with the same 5 guys.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chris, Lane, Preston, and Nick. But the same like 4 or 5 guys for the whole time. And
What was the program?
it was creative writing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to judge. I don't really know how popular creative writing is as a program across the board anyway. Because one thing I noticed, like here at UWM, where I'm going right now, the physics program seems to have like 5-6 people in it. Like, or I guess in that year, because like all the classes that I was taking was the same group of people over and over.
Yeah.
And over.
Yeah, that's how Full Sail was. It wasn't even like you knew who was going to be in your classes next semester, or not next semester, but even next month, because that's also a thing, is that it wasn't a semester based thing, it was monthly based. So this is part of the national accredited. It's a fucking bullshit school, okay? But we would have a class for a month, right? Or 2 classes, so we were taking 2 credits at a time, or 4 credits at a time. Okay. But you would finish the month, and that would be the end of
that whole class?
The whole class in 1 month. So it was a 4-week. So you would have finals in the 4th week every month.
These classes, was it like every single day you had the same class?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, was it like a normal college schedule, except instead of I'm gonna do 4 or 5 classes throughout this week, it's just all of those class
all
periods
the same
of just the
class.
one subject?
Yeah. Oh. So it was 5 days a week, all the same 2 classes.
That is weird.
Very weird.
Wait, was this physical or like virtual? Because you said it was 2020.
It was virtual for the first 3 or 4 months. Like I started in August, and it was virtual for all of August, all of September. I got there in September, and then it was still virtual through November, and then it kind of changed to be half and half, physical, virtual. Yeah. But and then eventually it was mostly physical. But there was still a lot of like pour over from like I could have probably made it through my first academic year without going to class if I would have like appealed, that. But and that was part of it too, is that there weren't any dorms. It was off-campus housing.
So that you had an apartment or something?
I had an apartment, yeah, right next to campus.
Okay, did you share this with like a lot of roommates or something?
No, I was in a studio apartment.
How much did that cost?
1-bedroom apartment by myself. A shit ton of money.
Okay, so hold on.
All being taken up by my student loan.
You've got the $15,000 scholarship, which attracts you there.
Yes.
But then you're going to an out-of-state college, so there's probably out-of-state tuition.
Uh-huh.
And then you also are paying for your own apartment.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was a smart idea. But
you ended up spending more money than you otherwise would.
Yeah, probably. And yeah, so now I have, quite a sizable loan that I accrued from such. It's all thanks to the Full Sail marketing team.
They did it right.
They do a good job. They do a really nice job over there. Keep it up, guys. Whoever is listening to the regular people from Full Sail.
Probably none of them, but yeah, that's kind of weird because I went to I started at MATC, which is Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Okay.
A shitty school, definitely by anybody's accounting of it. That was 2020, and then there was like a month and a half or whatever, 2 months of physical classes until like COVID was really getting in full swing, and then we went virtual. But then I stayed virtual essentially for the entire rest of that 2-year technical school. For you in Florida were only virtual for like a couple months.
Yeah, it was only a couple months.
Maybe that's just Florida being Florida.
Florida being Florida, man. DeSantis being DeSantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was still like, you had to wear masks in every class, which was, hey, good on Florida for that one.
That's
good on Full
surprising for Florida.
Yeah. But it was physical pretty right away. Yeah, small class sizes, like I said, so everyone was very spread out.
So this college, was it like, I've heard from a few other people who have gone to, weird schools that they've got like really, suspect curriculums where they're like teaching you stuff that just is not true. Like the Christian colleges, they're like,
yes.
Was there any element of that in this school? Was it like weird stuff going on, or was it like regular?
No, I wouldn't
subjects?
say that there was suspect. They weren't, it's not Brigham Young, but they were definitely. It wasn't. I wouldn't say that it was standard writing procedure. Like I wouldn't say that I got, like, if I would have gone for creative writing at any other university, regionally accredited university, I don't think that I would have had the same, effect as I did at Full Sail. Like, it was very rushed, I felt. I mean, obviously we were doing, a whole credit in 4 weeks. Yeah. And it was also year round. So
wait, so there was no summer break?
No summer break. We'd have a week-long winter break. But no, nothing.
I guess that explains how it was done in 2 years. So it was like you were taking general education credits as well as...
I was, yeah. Okay. I took, 1 science, 1 math. Yep.
With just 1 science, 1 math?
Just 1 science and 1 math course.
You're taking a lot of creative writing courses then. Like
lots, yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that I gained from it. And is that there were like very interesting classes, like we would take a sci-fi class or a comics class. I took a comics class. I almost failed my comics class.
How? Like,
because
why?
The teacher was a real stickler. He was an industry guy. He actually worked as the executive producer for Marvel Comics for a long stint in the 90s. And he really was kind of like a drill sergeant type guy. And
you weren't following the comics rules?
Yeah, I wasn't buying in as much as I thought that, this will be, an easier one, comics, write some comic books, but no, he was a dick, totally. But
was he like, he wanted like, Marvel, like comic book comics, and what were you writing, like newspaper comics, or is it?
Well, no, we were writing he would, so like one of the assignments that we had to do was this, we could choose, like our prompt. And one of the prompts, the one that I chose, was called New School. And New School was a high school full of superhero-like adjacent-esque high schoolers. And they were all just very odd, very constricting, very creatively constricting. And then he ran it as if he was still the executive producer for Marvel Comics, and like really was a stickler.
Weird.
Yeah, it was very odd. There were a lot of odd folks at Full Sail University, for sure.
Were these courses like a lot of reading, or was it mostly just writing? Like, the sci-fi class, would you like read sci-fi and then you have to write it? Or was it just
you would. There was a decent chunk of reading for sure. The course materials were all like hand selected so it really depended on like the professor, like who was, if it was some schmuck or if it was someone that really cared. And the people that did care, I had, it was relatively few and far between, but the people that did, it made it worthwhile and actually almost like a college experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's usually how it is, though. Like the teacher is really what makes or breaks
Yeah,
the
for
whole
sure.
experience. Like it could be the most boring sounding subject, but if the teacher's cool enough, then it can become a really fun
Yeah,
class.
like I took a few because Full Sail is it's very video games are like the biggest.
Like
They
people go for like
for
programming or like game design.
programming, game design. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they produce like a ton of game design majors, and so we were required to take a few game writing classes
That's interesting.
or games in general, and some of the professors for game writing, one in particular, like really changed my perspective on games in general. And
Like
like
how
not that I
so?
had a negative perspective on
Oh,
games, but I just wasn't, I didn't see it as like
an art
a
form.
super important creative medium. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it did genuinely shape my perspective. And also invite me into the world of like indie games, which
Oh,
was
okay.
interesting.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of I don't know. So you're not a gamer then, or you weren't before?
I play video games. I've never really gotten deep,
Oh, okay.
like, I've played the basics.
Oh,
I've played
okay.
Skyrim and such, but I've never delved deep. My brother's a big gamer guy. He played all that. Keenan as well, one of my best
Oh,
good
okay.
friends is.
Yeah, I've been probably too into video games for my whole life, and
Yeah.
one of the common complaints amongst just people like on the internet about the game industry over the several like past years, like decade or two even, is that like the AAA gaming industry is like decaying and like going stale, losing creativity, and just like kind of doing a bunch of money grabs, low
Yeah.
effort money grabs, where like now all of the really artistic, creative, and like groundbreaking work is being done by the indie games. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you've got just a group of 5 people, or even just like in the case of a game like Stardew Valley, like
One guy.
one person.
Stardew's one of my favorite games of all
Yeah,
time.
it's
Yeah.
it's rightly so, because yeah,
Yeah,
a
it's
game
beautiful.
entirely made, every single thing about it by one guy,
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
meticulous too, just down to the intricate details in that game are
Like
fantastic.
the game design, the writing, the
Mm-hmm.
programming, the music, like
Mm-hmm.
the animation, like everything. Like I don't.
I
It's kind
think,
of absurd how like a single person even does that. It took them
yeah,
like
I
eight
think
years,
that
but
really
still.
speaks for the art form. Like you said, like someone that's willing to pour their heart and soul into their one game, and it
Yeah,
is almost like their crown and joy. It's a huge
yeah.
accomplishment. Have you ever played Her Story?
No, but I've heard of that. I
It's
definitely haven't played it.
it's pretty good. That was one of the ones that the professor showed us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's. I think maybe you were somewhere on the spectrum there of in the past of having a negative, or maybe not entirely negative, but like a as a perspective on games that like they are not like
Yeah.
worthy of respect or something. I feel like that perception was definitely stronger in the past, but I feel like it's fading as time goes by. Like,
Yeah.
there used to be this like whole idea that games are just for kids, and like not really, like if you're an adult you can't play games, or like games aren't really as sophisticated as like television or like movies or things
No,
like
for
that,
sure.
but they
I
definitely can be.
I think that more people than ever are playing
Oh
video
yeah.
games too. And like, yeah, like you said, I think that this is one of the things that my professor like raved about, was that games are an all-encompassing medium where people are not only interacting with the story but changing the story and giving it agency. Like,
Yeah.
it gives the person actual real life choice involved, which is a really interesting medium. Like, it's the only, relatively, other than like maybe like these choose your own adventure books, or
Well,
like choose your own adventure.
yeah, I guess like in that sense, like yeah, choose your own adventure versus a game, like they both have some sort of aspect of choice involved. But then what's even more all encompassing about the video games is that basically any other art form or medium, a video game has it in there. Like if you're writing music, video games got that.
Yeah.
If like movies or like TV shows, like film production or like cinematics,
Mm-hmm.
video game has that. Like if you're like doing creative writing or like poetry or like whatever else, like video games have that in there
True.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've just everything about art can be found in video games, I feel like.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's why, I didn't think that I went into that class not thinking that I would enjoy it. I was not excited, and it was one of the more interesting classes that I took.
Yeah. Although one thing, maybe this is derailing our conversation into talking about video games too much, but one thing that I feel like is maybe a growing weakness, although I guess you could perceive it as strength, but I'll say what it is, in like games as an art form, as opposed to television or movies especially, is that games, maybe like if you look 20 years ago, basically every single game wasn't a live service game. It was just you buy it and it is finished. The production of it is finished, and now you play it. And if you like it, great.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then you're not going to buy the sequel or from that company again. You're not going to tell your friends to buy it. So there was less of a feedback loop of consumer to artist of like how to change this art over time.
Mm-hmm.
Where now, especially for like AAA games, like big industry games, it seems like most of them, if not like almost all of them, are live service games that, they are put into early access that people can play before they're even published. And then even after they're published, they're still getting regular updates. So it's like this person who's making the art is now beholden to the consumers of how to shape their art. When if you're making something like a movie that's just like more of a one-time, customer interaction,
True.
I feel like you have more authority and control over your own art than a video game producer does, because now it's like, oh, they didn't like this feature, I'm gonna have to change it real time, or within the same piece of art, the same video game.
Yeah, you can't really edit a book after you write it.
Right. Yeah, you write the book and it is done, and
Yeah.
like whatever you wanted to put into that book is in that book. And with a video game, you more have to change things maybe that you don't want to change to satisfy the consumer.
Yeah, that would really come in handy in stand-up, as if we had like a Q&A with the audience. Like after your set, you stand up there and audience members tell you what they hated about your set.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you do have the live feedback though, with the laughter and
that is definitely, yeah, you can
how well a joke lands.
You can definitely change on the fly based off of audience perception. Yeah, I would like to point out that I would like to fact check the Regular People's Podcast episode 34, where Emma Hansky quote said that her roommate, which is me, does the same jokes. Sometimes it's required. Sometimes I do a lot. I try to do something new most every time. So
do you do? Okay,
let's just make that note.
Okay, yeah, noted.
Noted for the fellow or the regular listeners.
Yeah, and Emma
and Emma for sure.
I kind of find that a little bit surprising, though. That, I mean, I guess here I'll explain it both ways. On the one hand, it makes sense that as a stand-up comedian, you would want to change things every night because you want to make it fresh for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to tell the same jokes all the time.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, especially like the bigger and bigger of a stand-up comedian you get, at least from an audience perspective, it seems like you're telling the same jokes for like a whole year straight because that's like your tour. That's your set. You have to develop a set,
an hour,
or like 5 minutes if you're like just trying to like go into open mic night.
Yeah, so you would, especially if you're like a touring headliner, you develop like 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah. That would be, it would be like you're saying, like a year's worth of material, almost your material base for a year. And then usually, obviously, like if you're famous enough or if you're big enough, then you put this out in some form, like an album in the olden days,
or a Netflix
special, or YouTube now is just blowing up. Like so many guys are putting out YouTube specials. But even like you said, like down to us struggling open micers, the five, and really having a tight five, which now I've been doing it for 2.5 years almost, so it's changed. I mean, I look at time like five differently than I used to.
Was it that five in the past felt like a hard time to fill? And then now
I mean,
it's smaller?
Definitely when you start, five is intimidating, And what was really interesting is that I started in Orlando. Like I started, I'd always wanted to be a comic, like from age 12, 10, I would listen to Pandora radio station comedy, and my mom would actually take it away from me because it was too crass or blue.
Oh, okay.
And ever since then, I wanted to do stand up, but I never thought that I was old enough or I had, interesting enough things for adults to laugh at,
Yeah.
So I would go to Appleton Skyline Comedy Club and I'd watch the open mics. And then when I moved to Florida, I felt, oh, this is the perfect time. I don't know anyone here. Should try to get involved. So I went and started doing it consistently. But when you start, 5 minutes is an insurmountable amount of time that you don't really understand.
Yeah.
And you think you understand too. Like, it might 5 minutes to any listener, might sound like a ridiculous. Oh, I could do 5 minutes of stand up, but once you step on stage and you get a minute through and you got 4 minutes left, it is quite the task.
Yeah. Not even just stand up itself, but like public speaking, or like if you're just gonna deliver a presentation on something. Yeah, 5 minutes, like hard to fill, at least hard to fill with quality content. I feel like it can be like maybe harder for this to happen with stand up, but like if you're doing like a presentation, you can just fill it with like these words that I'm speaking right now, likes, and like non content words that like you met the 5 minutes, but it wasn't a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that in stand up too. A lot of people do that. A lot of people just waste time. But yeah, nowadays, like when I'm at a mic and I am, I get the light at 4 or at 5, depending, and it's just like I want to keep going for. Sometimes I'll do a show where I'll have an allotted 10-minute, and then at the end of that 10-minute, when I get the light, I'll be like, well, fuck, I don't want to get off stage right now.
Yeah.
Like I could keep going for another 10 minutes, but it is, like you said, you culminate material and you grow as a comic for sure. Like now I can do like a good 20. I probably have a good 15-20 minutes of material
Nice. You'd said though that you do like switch it up like every night, you think?
Well, yeah, so I mean, I'm constantly trying to write new jokes. Like I'll probably have every week a good 3 new things that I'm working on throughout the week that I'll mix in with old material. I like to, like, for people that don't, consume stand-up a lot, I like to think about it as like waves, like you go through this month chunk where you're doing this base of material where you're doing like a 5, right? Or you're like a 10-minute, let's just use 10. And I'm doing the same jokes out of the 10-minute time period, but I'm changing orders, changing, tags, changing it, a good amount, and seeing what works best, and then once I feel like I'm comfortable with that, then I can, always go back to that and use it. Also, you have to do jokes like a lot more than once to really see like if it's good, because something can work 50 times in a row, but then all of a sudden it just sucks.
Yeah, you got to test it on different audiences, and then you got to test it like in different ways.
In different demographics, in different situations, what it follows,
like the timing of it, like you got to know exactly like how best to pace and like to say like.
Yeah, if I can add like an act out here, or if I can add like, an inflection piece when I'm saying this word. You know what I'm saying?
How do you practice? Like, is all your practice done on stage, or like do you like go into a room and like record yourself and then watch it and like try and...
When I first started, I would look like a psychopath, and I'd have the classic, the hairbrush as a microphone. But nowadays, it's more the practice is on stage. Yeah, I'll write something, and then if it goes through my grueling process where I think it's good enough to go on stage, then I'll do it. And usually that's just like a premise or like an idea of something that I think will work, that will translate well.
Yeah.
So it could go terrible. It could go great. But I feel like I have a decent process nowadays, 2 years into to know what will and will not work.
Yeah. I've got a note on my phone that's just stand-up comedy, and it's a list of ideas that if I ever were to try, those are the jokes I've got. Never tried it though. So, but it seems like the first.
Up there.
It seems like the first jump is probably the most intimidating part of like.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that honestly, the first jump seems the most intimidating, but the first bomb, like the first time you really like eat shit, is like if you're gonna stick with it after that, then yeah, you'll stick with it. I think the first time that you get like net silence from a group of 20, 30 people, and you're up there for 5 minutes, it is unbelievable and really hard to value yourself as a human being going forward.
Like I can't imagine like how many good nights does it take to recover from a bad night?
It depends, like it depends on, well, see, so I'll tell you about my worst bomb ever, which is quite the bomb, by the way. It was at the Orlando Improv in front of 250 people. And it was my first time ever doing like a club, like a true comedy club. And improvs are all over the country. They're like a chain, like.
Oh, they're actually like affiliated?
It's like a Chili's, Yeah, so they have them, in multiple states. You know what I'm saying? Like Brookfield Improv, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So at the Orlando Improv, there was a competition called the New Faces of Orlando Comedy, and I had made it through the qualifying. So there was a competition previously at a place called Harry Buffalo Bar downtown Orlando, and like so many comics were in this, 20 or so, and then they choose 5 from each night. There were multiple nights, and then these 15 guys go to the Orlando Improv and then compete that night for the winner of the New Faces of Orlando Comedy. And I had made it to the Improv for this, and there was like 250 people there. And
so how big of a jump up was that from your previous audiences, do you think?
Like huge. Like that was
like 10 times?
Close, like that was probably, I was also very early in. I was like 4 months in to doing stand up. Probably like the biggest show by then that I had done was 50 people. So like it was a good 200 more people.
Yeah.
And I had somehow chosen that night to be the night that I didn't use drinking as a crutch to do stand up. And I don't know why. I have no idea, but I didn't drink beforehand. I think a comic had mentioned something like, you're underage, don't order drinks at the Improv. Like, that's a good way to never get back. And so I just chose not to. And then I was just a fucking nervous wreck, And I went on stage and I ate shit. I mean, it wasn't like, silence. I got laughs, but like
pity laughs or like laughs?
Probably.
Can you tell?
You could tell that I was doing poorly, and it was more about. It wasn't even the jokes, because there are still jokes that I do from that set. That
like
I
delivery
have that work. Jokes. Yeah. Like the writing of the jokes, but the delivery of the jokes was just awful.
That's like that was the difference.
Yeah, that was definitely the difference. I was just off. Like, and that is. Why do you do jokes multiple times? It's also just to build that like experience,
or like the confidence in the joke.
The confidence in the joke, or the confidence in, your voice as a comic too. Right, yeah. So I just bombed, so hard, and everybody knew this. And it was a competition where you bring people, and then at the end the claps determine who wins. Yeah. So we all get on stage after, and they go, Caleb Davis, huge roar, and they go, RV, pin drop. Swear to God, pin drop.
That's depressing.
And I fell to my knees as a joke, but I fell to my knees, and that got a laugh. My only laugh of the night was falling to my knees after that. But it was pretty brutal, and like it was so one of the worst nights, like I went to sleep thinking about it. I drove home with my 2 comic friends who were also in the competition. And, comics, they're not going to especially your friends, are going to tell you like, no, you were awful.
Yeah.
It was
They're
bad.
gonna give you shit for it. Yeah.
And the only way that I could reconcile with it was to go to the open mic the next day. Because
You can't end on
if
that
I
note.
stopped doing, or if doing it for a while, then you can't let it, be a defining factor of who you are as a comic. Everybody bombs, But that was pretty brutal and pretty ridiculous and pretty hard to face too. And I don't think that many art forms you get that feedback, like you were saying almost about video games. You get that feedback right away. No one's painting a painting and then someone tells you it's shit to your face.
And also, I think there's a different way the feedback is weird too, because like you get it right away, but then also you know that it's been observed, because there's a lot of different art that you can make and then put out into the world, and you're just not sure if people have seen it or if they hate it or both. Or like, cause so for instance, if you make YouTube videos, you can put out the YouTube video and it gets like no views, and is that because it sucks, or is that just because nobody's seen it? Like, no, just it's not getting recommended. Where if you're doing comedy in front of 250 people, that they've all seen it, and since they're not laughing, I'm doing bad
Objectively.
Yeah. So like your YouTube video not getting views, you don't know which it is. You don't know, like, should I just keep doing this and then it'll get views because it is good and it's just not being seen, or does it just suck a lot?
I mean, and the craziest part about that is there are so many comics that get that feedback, receive that feedback, and then continue doing stand-up for the rest of their lives, So it's almost like it's self-determined whether or not you should keep continuing to do it too, whether or not you have the chops. I
mean, I would imagine that comes down a lot to your first few times. Like, if you got those highs of previous good nights, you maybe have you know what to chase. Like, you still got this idea of the high that you can chase even after a bomb, because like if you go out for the first time you're ever gonna try stand up and you bomb, maybe that just discourages you forever.
I mean, I bombed my ass off the first time I ever went up.
But like, you still enjoyed it though?
Yeah. The first time I ever went up, I watched a bunch of guys from Orlando, didn't know any of them, and then I went in the back and I just at an open mic called Austin's Coffee Rip. They're ripping it down the city, taking back one of the best coffee shops in Orlando. I went to the back after watching a few guys, and I asked them, like, how do I, get involved with this? And they were like, just sign up right now. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I have stuff written. I've been writing for years, like, fuck it. So I went up and I did one joke and it went fine, not good by any means, but
like, you got some
I got laughs. Yeah. And then after that, I completely blanked and did not remember a single thing that I wrote. So then I just stood on stage and I kind of looked around and I just went, well, I guess I'll be back next week. I guess I'm going to keep doing this, And then,
I feel like that's not that bad though. Like, you didn't tell a second joke that bombed. You just forgot.
No, yeah. I just forgot everything and then just told people, well, I'll be back next week to try this again because I don't remember anything that I wrote. And people laughed at that. And then I was like,
I feel like
whatever.
That's encouraging, kind of. Yeah.
It was still massively embarrassing for the comics in the back that were laughing at me, But I feel like if that happens too, and you still realize like, oh, this is something achievable, something that I want to accomplish and get better at, like that's how you know that you'll stick with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people, I'm sure, like go up and just have the worst time ever and go, yeah, I will never do that ever again,
Because I feel like you got to know that there's something like that you really enjoy about it for you to persevere through like the hard times. So if you never even experienced that enjoyment in the first place through having, a joke that does well or like something
I
like
mean,
that.
it is a real validation bomb. Like
Right.
it is a drug for sure. Like I've never felt much better than absolutely killing a set. Like when you're just on and you just have a pretty flawless set, there's no better feeling in the world to me. almost. And
Yeah.
fuck sex.
I've experienced feelings like that. Probably not exactly the same because I've never done stand-up comedy, but like doing plays, like, you know, if you get like a standing ovation or whatever, or if, you know, when you're doing the curtain call, everybody claps for you the most or just a ton, or like, you know, you deliver your line, your jokes, and they go through.
Yeah.
Like, you're still, you know, part of the performance, and it's also like not lines that you came up with in the first place, but still like people are clapping and like laughing over your delivery of the thing. It still has that kind of probably similar feeling to it.
I'm sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially like with stand up, like growing up and like being like somewhat of a, you know, fucking class clown or whatever. Like, you know that this is something you like to do. It's like, and then that getting that, like, there's not much better than having people like laugh like right away when you tell like a really good joke or whatever, and just die laughing.
Yeah,
and
like
it is that
a whole room of people looking at you, paying attention to you, and also like liking you.
Yeah, enough to make a physical reaction.
Yeah.
You know, like it's pretty great.
So where do you go for stand-up comedy? Like, do you have the same like place that you go to all the time, or do you go to a wide variety of places?
So it's on a weekly schedule. So like Mondays at Bremen Cafe, which is a bar in Milwaukee. They do Monday Mass, it's called. Like, it's an open mic, and it's one of the better ones in the city. And then so Tuesdays has a few spots, and then Wednesdays is at the local club, which is like it's owned by Milwaukee Comedy LLC. So it's called the Laughing Tap. They run a mic on Wednesdays, which I love. And so there's mics every day, just at different locations around, mostly bars, restaurants, stuff like that. Anywhere where a venue will pick it up because it will make them money.
So then I'm wondering, though, at these places, do you think, like maybe you can tell because you're looking at the crowd, do you think it's often like the same group of people that, like, you know, as audience members go to, you know, Bremen every Monday to watch stand-up comics, or is it
you'll
largely
see,
different? Like,
audience? You'll see, you know, repeats, the true believers, the true fans. You know, that's great, the supporters. But they're also very odd, you know. There's some really odd ducks that come out and support stand-up comics.
I believe it, yeah.
Local stand-up comedy. But, you know, thank you to anyone that does it. There are, like, repeat audience members, but mostly it changes on a night-by-night basis. I mean, more than not, I don't recognize most of the people in the crowd.
That's probably good, because, like, yeah, I was thinking if you're going to the same places, like, on a weekly basis, and there's, like, a group of, you know, regular audience, or, like, a chunk of the audience anyway is regular, then I feel like that might pressure you, or, like, be weird to... You're working on your set, but then it's, like, the same audience every time, so you'd feel this pressure to do different jokes because, like, they've already heard that joke, like, last week.
That's the thing with comics.
Yeah.
You know, is that, like, you're around the same comics every week, and, like,
did they give you a lot of feedback, like the other comics?
In Orlando, I had, like, some, you know, that was the best part about, and we talked about Florida and college and everything, but my most positive experience in Orlando was just the people that I met through stand-up, because I didn't know anyone, and I made some of my best friends of all time in Orlando, and it's guys that I still call, you know, on a weekly basis. But, you know, some of them live in Austin now, some of them live in Orlando. It is like a true brothership, or, like, you know, camaraderie. Like, you both have, like, such a similar goal in mind, you know, and I don't feel like that's very common in most things, you know. So you really, you get to know these people, and you get to know, like, their styles. Yeah. And that was a really great thing about Orlando, and about, like, all the good friends that I met there, is that there is a really positive feedback loop, even if it is, like, you know, telling you suck, telling you did ass. In Milwaukee, you know, I don't have as much feedback. I think it's more about what I get out of stand-up has changed. I don't look at it as much as of a social thing. It's more of, like, I'm there to do a job, you know.
Okay. Do you get paid for these nights, or is it...
Depends on it. Not at open mics, no. But, you know, if I get booked on shows around the area, yeah. So you get booked on shows by other comics that, you know, may produce local shows at different places around the area. So like recently, I've gotten booked for the fall already, a few feature spots, and those will be paid. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of Milwaukee Comedy LLC, like a lot of producers. And that's really that's one of the most interesting parts of comedy is like this, the business side of it, getting booked professionally.
Yeah.
Is really hard. And you really have to be out there and grind for it. And
Right.
You get notoriety from just being a face that's around, but also because comedy is not like necessarily merit based, although we would love it to be, comics would love it to be. But
What do you think it's most based on then? Like success in comedy?
success in comedy, I think more than anything, it's about the time that you put into it.
Oh, okay.
So,
is that not at least the measure of merit though? Like maybe
that
not
is a
talent
measure
or
of
like
merit.
skill, but
Yeah,
yeah, like
I
effort.
agree. Yes, effort. But there's a lot of people that do stand up and are in like a position of power as a producer or a showrunner or whatever, that they get to book the people of their liking. You know what I'm saying? And it isn't.
So you gotta
it's
like rub
kinda
elbows.
like, yeah,
with people.
that's the worst part of it. That's my least favorite part about stand up is like this kind of sucking up you have to do to people that you might not necessarily like. Really love. But
I'm kind of surprised. So they book shows months out for comics.
Yeah.
Local comics?
Certain shows, like well organized shows. Yeah.
So compared to Orlando, because that's your other experience, is the size of comics that are active in Milwaukee a lot smaller? Or
I'd say that it's really similar. I'd say Orlando had a more comics, had a bigger base of comics, not necessarily regular guys that are out there every night, but a bigger base of like people that are comedians.
Yeah.
Milwaukee is pretty close though. Close enough where it's annoying sometimes when there's 30 people on signing up for an open mic and you're 30th.
Oh, is there so the sign up list, is it not guaranteed that you're actually going to get time? Or is it just annoying because you got to wait 3 hours until you're up?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's more it. You pretty much will get up depending on the place,
Yeah.
But yeah, going 31st out of 30.
Got to get there early,
comics. I guess. Yeah, exactly. You gotta fight tooth and nail for the sign-up list.
Do you still drink before shows to get in the zone, or
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much every night. When I do it, I have a beer or two.
Oh,
I don't get fucking shit faced every time, but
you learned your lesson from the bomb to
that's
lubricated.
definitely. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Especially when you're doing a crowd of 250.
Yeah.
There's probably some nerves involved that you should account for, or not inciting anyone to drink. You're not going to be a bad stand-up comic if you are sober.
Yeah.
But
I guess this is about kind of practice again. When you are coming up with material, do you just run it through yourself and then put it on stage, or are there people that that you try to tell your jokes to?
That's a good question. I run things with friends.
Yeah.
I'll either tell them, this is a joke I wrote, and I'll tell it to them, or I'll just try to organically tell them something, that I wrote, and, get a feedback that way. Yeah, it's pretty nice to do that. That's something that's a privilege now from living with a lot of people, I have 5 roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 roommates, which is nice because if one person gets annoyed that I'm bouncing bits off them, then I can always pick it up.
Yeah.
But in Orlando is more comic based, and I still do that too. I'll call my comic friends from Orlando and tell them something that I had written, and then maybe they give me a tag or they give me, okay, this is an angle that you could take at that premise or whatever. But also I feel like I do have a good self-elimination process nowadays, where I can, I know relatively if a joke is bad or not.
So you've used this word a few times now, and I'm not familiar. What does tag mean in?
Oh,
comedy?
tag.
Yeah.
A tag is like, so you have a punchline,
Hmm.
and then a tag would be something that you say after it to
Oh,
tag, a line onto that.
okay. So it's still gonna get a laugh, also,
Yeah, it's
like a
made
second
to-
punchline,
yeah,
kind of
kind of, yeah. It's
an after punch.
yeah, it's supposed to lubricate, the transition
To the next
to
joke.
the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or to just add on,
Yeah.
to like the punchline.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the punchline is supposed to be the big psychological reaction to
Yeah.
whatever's written, and then get some extra after that based on the premise. Or
I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but it's something that I was thinking about like a year or two ago. Why do you think people laugh?
That's a really interesting question. I
Here's one take. I don't remember where I saw this, but I saw somewhere an idea that I don't know if it's like true or like wholly true, but I think it's an interesting thought. Is the phrase laughter is the reverberating sound of a truth hitting a lie. So it's like to tell a joke, you've got to have some sort of reality, or like, and then you have to subvert that reality in an unexpected way.
Yeah, that could definitely be a formula of it. There are so many different things that get people to laugh, though. You know what I'm saying? There's so many and so many things that like that don't make sense too. Like I laugh at things all the time that aren't funny, that shouldn't be
Yeah.
funny. But
Yeah, sometimes something's just stupid, and
yes,
that makes it funny.
exactly. Yeah, and that's sometimes the hardest that I ever laugh.
Yeah.
Is that.
Oh yeah, I've laughed for like 30 straight minutes just at things that are ridiculous and don't make any sense and are completely absurd
Yeah,
and shouldn't be funny.
I don't laugh at comics jokes very often. Like watching comedy because I've just watched so much comedy. But when something goes awry or something unexpected happens, that's the funniest stuff. I'll fucking die
Yeah.
in the back.
That's interesting though that you don't laugh a lot watching other comics.
Unless it really it's like really piques my interest. Also, it might be because you've heard certain things multiple times and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like I'm
those
so
jokes are
much
funny.
better than like no, like these comics are amazing, but sometimes it's a mixture of you've heard a lot of things repeated, or you're also just not in it because it's something that you have to do by being there. You're not like, I'm not an audience member that's going there to intake comedy. You know what I'm saying? I'm there to do comedy, and I have to watch because I'm there.
Oh, okay.
But what makes people laugh?
I mean,
Some people say that it's like a trauma response, which I think is really interesting. Like,
yeah, I feel like I heard that, but yeah, continue.
like that people laugh at like upsetting things or things that they have personal pain attached to, which I think is not necessarily valid. But
it could be true in some cases.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely like that reminds me kind of like of like nervous laughter, like you're uncomfortable in a situation, so like your only response
is to laugh.
like laugh, like a nonsensical response.
Yeah, my friend told me he gets like bad nervous laughter, like at funerals and such. Like it's just a response that he has to like really bad things that sometimes he'll just start. He feels awkward and uncomfortable and anxious, and then sometimes he'll just start laughing in the worst situation possible.
For me, I don't know if it's necessarily nervous laughter, but it's like nothing to say laughter, or like, why are you asking me this laughter? Like sometimes people will say something and I'll just laugh as a response. Really. Like I won't even say a sentence, I'll just like laugh and then continue on. But it's not like, I don't know, it's not like I'm uncomfortable. It's just like, I don't know, that's pretty silly what you just said. I don't have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes like people laugh at what they relate to. A lot of times, I think I think that there's there's a multitude of reasons that people would laugh.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can define it to like one, specific response that this is why.
Yeah, I don't know what that one thing would be if it did exist.
Yeah. Dick jokes, probably.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to.
It all comes back.
Watching other people's pain. Or why, when you were done in Florida, why did you move to Milwaukee?
Because it was fucking expensive in Florida, and then my student loan
But like, why Milwaukee though? You know?
Milwaukee because I'm from Appleton originally, and all of my friends
Moved to Milwaukee.
moved to Milwaukee,
Okay.
and I kind of saw it as like a reverse college experience too, where I didn't get like I didn't live in a dorm or like a house with a lot of friends and like get that experience to be around people that I'm really close with, and I thought that was I was missing out on something that
Yeah.
I wouldn't have time to gain back at some point.
Okay. I see. Because I was just thinking, like, as far as cities go that are good for like stand-up comedy, Chicago's close by.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wouldn't be a good option.
Yeah, Chicago. It wasn't like a comedy centric move.
Yeah.
If I were to make a move like that, it would have been to a hub like Chicago. Minneapolis,
Is Minneapolis
LA,
a
New
good
York.
comedy spot?
Yeah, Minneapolis. Well, it's a metro, like a big
Right, it's a
city.
big city, yeah.
So,
Like any big city.
and yeah, actually, they have a few really good clubs in Minneapolis, almost like Chicago. Like they have a place called Acme and a place called Underground. Yeah, there are places that if you're, this is the time that I'm gonna try to make it, in this world, and you move out to Chicago or New York or LA, or now Austin is huge. Like I've had a few friends move out to Austin. They're doing fantastic. They're getting booked.
Wow.
One of my friends is now a regular on the biggest comedy podcast in the world, which
What's
is
the biggest
pretty
comedy
Kill
podcast?
Tony. It's a live comedy show where they have comics come up and do a minute of material in front of a live audience, and then they judge them.
Wow.
Yeah. And he is one of the regular comics that goes up and does a minute now.
That's pretty cool.
Cameron Patterson. Yep. He's pretty amazing.
Do you think you'll ever make a comedy centric move?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of a perfect transition into that big life choices thing that I was wanting to talk about too, is that right now I'm kind of in a place where a lot of my friends have moved to Austin, and a lot of them are making this comedy centric
So you're
move.
thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it, and I'm seeing like, oh, well, look at the success that so and so's had, and and this, there's opportunity, heavy opportunity based off of where you go. Austin is blowing up with a few new clubs have popped up, and it's just like being there for it happening right now. It's almost like a LA in the 90s of sorts, like this is where it's happening right now,
Okay.
where comedy's
It's the
popping
up-and-coming
off.
spot.
The up and coming spot, yeah. And like, so, there's this pressure that's like, I got to get out there and do it, now. And if I don't do it now, like, who knows when that opportunity could come again, or if that opportunity will come again. But, then there's another part of me that's just like, well, fuck it. Like, what if I went and lived overseas and taught English in Japan or something? And
So that's what the thing
so there's
preventing
this,
you from doing this?
there's like this quandary of like, what do I really want out of life
that's
right
the question.
now as a 22-year-old? I don't know. I can't tell you. Maybe we could figure it out on the Regular People podcast.
Wait, so are those the two main things that are pulling you, or is there anything else?
Those are definitely the two main things that are pulling me.
Is there anything in particular like holding you here?
In Milwaukee?
Yeah. Like, is
I
it
guess
like
family, friends,
okay?
but not particularly. Like I've made the move before,
Yeah.
so I'm not like scared of moving away from all that.
So, with trying to be a comic in Austin on the one hand versus going to a different country and teaching English on the other, what are the pros of each side?
Well, one is completely centered around comedy.
Mm.
One would be like doing everything that I can in my power to achieve a goal.
Do you think that's what you enjoy most in life? Or like one of the top things is doing comedy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like if not
The most?
one of the most things that I enjoy for sure. Top
That's
three.
That's a
Sex
pretty...
is up there. There's a few things that are close, but comedy might be number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
which makes it really difficult to like decide to do anything else, you know. And it's also something that not only that I really enjoy, but something that I've done for an amount of time, like 2.5 years.
Yeah, like
I'm experienced and into it, and like not to like pat myself on the back, but I think I'm relatively good at it, you know. Like, and so it also has like a career opportunity attached to it, like a I could make it my.
You could. That is definitely one of those things where if you say that to people, practical people anyway, I'm not a practical person. If you say that to practical people, they're like, that's, that's crazy. That's a big dream that, nobody accomplishes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there's the element of risk there for sure.
Yeah,
but
it is achievable.
Yeah.
It's just comedy's like really there's this like saying that's like you either make it in comedy way before you've earned it or way after you've earned it. You know, like some guys do it for 10, 15 years and then they, and then they start making money off of it. They start, and there's these guys that are just the road dogs that have just, they've been touring for just tour after tour after tour, year after year after year, just like to scrape by, and that's like a whole different side of it, I guess.
I mean, see, maybe that's like an underappreciated aspect of the people, or like the people should consider that say things like, oh, you can't make it in comedy. That's like 1% or whatever of the people who try, or about any other industry like that, like acting or becoming a singer or whatnot. Is I feel like there's a lot more people than most people realize doing it professionally. They're just not famous for it. They're like, if you can manage to tour as a comedian and get by, like
that's how I see making it. This like it's not like making it in showbiz or you're
like, not famous, but it's your career.
Exactly. Like you've made it once. If I could pay all of my bills based off stand up, like that would be
that's a success.
Yeah. Like if I didn't have to do anything else financially besides stand up comedy, that would be making it in my mind.
So I feel like there's probably plenty of people who are, singers, actors, comedians who, like they're not famous. They're definitely not household names, but they're still, that is all they do. Yeah. And that's what pays their bills.
And it's, that's really just about like longevity and like how long you stick with something. And I think that anything is relatively achievable professionally if you just do it for ever. Yeah. If you just never quit.
Yeah.
But that's like kind of, where I'm at. Like I love it more than most anything, but I don't know if I'm ready to sacrifice like real life opportunities that I could also like travel. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself on, and maybe that's the wrong decision, but there's no right or wrong.
There's definitely no way to know, even if there is a right or wrong.
Exactly. Like I feel strongly that if I made that decision, I could always start doing comedy again. Like it's not that I would lose everything that I've learned.
I'm usually pretty like analytically minded about things. So what you just said right there, that you could restart, you could go back and like into comedy, even if you spend a few years traveling or whatever, makes me wonder, like what the average, like if you graphed it, what the age would be of comics, like on average, and like especially like if you want to like look at ones who make it big, like what the average age is it skewed towards being older, like, or is it a lot of like younger, like 20s comics?
Well, that's what's really interesting about comedy is like we said, like the guys that that make it or stick with it, there's really no rhyme or reason. You can be
all over the place.
You can be Sam Kinison, who was a preacher until he was 35 and then like had to come to, not God, I guess, but come to the devil
Jesus.
moment where he moved to LA and became one of the biggest stand-up comics of all time.
That's pretty cool.
And like that's the thing with stand-up, is that there is no rhyme or reason to when.
Right. Yeah, so then there's not that much of a downside if you do just go.
Not necessarily, but it's also like, well, what could happen in that time? If I did make the move where I was,
that's true. You might miss out on.
Might miss out
on hot
on
moment in Austin.
The moment, so it is just kind of a difficult.
But if you wait another 10, 20 years, there'll be another moment somewhere else.
That's true. That's true.
Probably anyway.
Maybe in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Probably not, but you never know. But that is one thing that you just kind of mentioned there that always gave me hope. When I was growing up, when I was a kid, up until I don't know, maybe like 20 years old or something, I really wanted to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I never put any energy into being an actor aside from like being in plays and stuff. So if I really wanted to be an actor, I should have like been out going off to Chicago every single week trying to auditioning for things. But I really wanted to be an actor. Wanted to be an actor. And what gave me hope was seeing these older actors who, yeah, they've been actors for a long time, but like they were just like in an episode of Seinfeld when they were 40, and then it's not until they're 55, like Bryan Cranston, where they actually make it big.
And then like, they're the biggest, for a while. Yeah.
It's like these, like, or like Steve Carell, like a lot of people that are already like way past their 20s, even past their 30s sometimes. Sometimes they're like really old, and all of a sudden now they're a famous actor.
Yeah, I think that one thing that, we might miss out on is that, like, Bryan Cranston is huge because of Breaking Bad, but Bryan Cranston has been, a professional actor for so long, and like it just has like, like you said, like the Seinfeld role as the dentist, or like the Malcolm in the Middle dad.
That was an amazing show. He definitely made it by then.
That is S tier, comedy.
But I guess he wasn't a household name yet.
Yeah, for sure.
You wouldn't know Bryan Cranston by that name in 2002.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely trying for at least like 20, 30 years maybe.
Yeah.
Until he actually really made it. But still, just the fact that somebody could, like, you see, a lot of, maybe most new big actors are like in their teens or 20s, but there's still a large amount that are just popping up all over the lifespan.
Yeah. But the Timothy Chalamet of the world,
those are the ones that
skew the...
You're like, oh no, like you look at Timothy Chalamet and he's younger than me. And like it's too late for me,
Dude, that's definitely something that I, especially when I was younger in comedy, that I would track like my favorite comics and like, okay, well, they started when they were 22, and then, they had this special when they were 27, or, depending on the guy, like this is when they made it, quote unquote, or like this is the amount of time, this is when they started, this is when it worked out for them. And you track this and you go like, okay, well, I'm a year in now. How long do I have to, It's something that you keep tabs on, subconsciously, whether or not it's a good thing. It's definitely not, because everybody has their own,
Yeah, it's just because it's, taken 6 years for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to do the same for you. Could be never for you, could be 2 years for you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a hard thing to do. It's like a fight in your own mind, or at least in mine anyway, of a lot of different things, whether it's acting or stand-up comedy or becoming a board game designer or what else it is. It's like you have this knowledge of other people's success and like how long it took them, and that can be encouraging sometimes, but usually discouraging, because you're comparing yourself to others. And then so if you're getting discouraged by it, that's reducing your chances of success, because that discouragement is making it so you put less and less time into it. But really, if you want to be successful, you need to put more and more time into it. So it's like you've got to like overcome your own doubts.
Yeah, I think that overall, comparing yourself to others is a destructive mindset. If we had to, figure it out. But that's the issue that I have right now, I guess, and that I need to figure out is, what do I really want out of life right now at 22 or 23 when I make this decision.
Okay, what are the pros then of traveling to a different country? And you said, so is it just traveling, or is it specifically you want to teach?
Well, I think that that's the best avenue to travel for me, specifically, where I could still pay back my student loan.
Right.
For my fake college degree that I got. But and then either that or going back to school somewhere, I think, are the two most prevalent options.
Going back to school.
Actually, I've looked into going back to school like overseas, and first of all, national accreditation. It overseas schools don't look at like regional versus national accreditation. They just look at like what your qualifications of your degree are, and then like obviously there's a selection process that goes into I was looking into, there's like an EF level degree, but I was looking into it, and it seemed as if, my degree like meets all the qualifications.
Okay.
So it might actually be easier for me to go to school overseas.
Wow.
For my master's, which would be pretty nice.
That would be pretty cool. And also, one thing I forgot to mention that's really benefited me personally, because I didn't go to school for 7 years between high school and college, is once you're an adult and you're living on your own, or at least not with your parents anymore, that's like when college actually gets cheaper again, because then you can apply for FAFSA grants. And I don't think you can if you're still like dependent on like your family for most things. So once you're already into your 20s, then going to school, you can actually get like, I don't know, for me it's like $10,000 off a year.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's one thing that, if I could do it all over again, I don't know if I'd go to school right out of college, or if I would go out right out of high school. I think that really it was like a pressure-based decision where it was like, oh, everybody's doing this.
Yeah. My senior year of high school, I was feeling that like everybody's, they're all like going to college, they're all planning where they're going. So then I had like 17 reasons of like, well, I'm not going to college.
17?
It was I don't know if that's specific, but I had a list.
You had 13 reasons why.
Right, yeah. Of why I didn't want to go to college. So then I was like, oh, I'm better than everybody else. I'm not going to college. Like they're all just going along with the trend, and I'm like thinking for myself or whatever. So yeah, I didn't go. And so I feel like, we both had pretty unorthodox methods. For me, for going in my late 20s. And
are you happy for that decision though? Yes and no.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I do feel, I guess, like behind the curve in some ways of like, I could have already had a college degree for like 4 years now or more, but then I don't know, like maybe that doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
And I also think about it like, if I would have gone to college right after high school, I probably wouldn't have done that well and probably would have wasted a lot of money.
Yeah.
With the different mindset I had back then.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, thank God my school was a 2-year degree. I feel like that helped a lot, like achieving it really fast. It was like a speed run, college degree in 24 months.
Yeah. Well, no summers. That's a
downside. Yeah, that was pretty wild. But how'd you start teaching overseas then? And where were you? I was going to ask just in general about this.
It wasn't for that long. It was like 2 months. It was through a program that I was interested in, was on my mind. I don't remember how I learned of it, but it's a program called Green Heart Travel. And it's not a good idea because you actually, well, for you, I mean, for general people, I don't know, because you were talking about how you want to like make money while doing it. It's actually the opposite. You have to pay money to do it.
Yeah.
For Green Heart Travel anyway. After that, which I guess I can talk about in a sec, but after that, I did then go on to get a teaching English as a foreign language and teaching English to young learners certificate.
Yeah.
Which then you can use that to get a job that will actually pay you.
Yeah, TEFL.
Yeah.
I've been looking into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm certified for that. Although I don't know how many years that's valid for.
What class did you take to do that?
I don't even remember what it's called. It was an online certification.
Like 120 hours.
It was like 120 hours, 145 hours to get the also teaching English to young learners part.
Yeah.
I could find it, but I don't know off the top of my head what it was called. It was like, now it's probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it was this thing, like my friend told me about it. It's like normally like $350 to get this certification. If you act right now, it's like 25. And I was like, all right, I'll just pay $25 and do this certification program. Yeah. So then me and my girlfriend both did it because we're like, what if we want to go travel to Thailand for a year and teach there? Never end up doing that, at least not so far. But it was pretty easy to get that certification.
Yeah, that's what I've looked into. And then with the bachelor's degree, it's like, if you have your TEFL and then your bachelor's degree, you can get paid a decent chunk of money to stay in Japan, and they pay for housing or stuff like that. So like, and that's something that I can't afford right now too with my student loan, like travel like that. Like I have to work somewhere, like that's just a reality. So that would be the perfect way to travel or to see, or to get engrossed in culture.
Although, I mean, it'd still be really cool and it'd still be really, really beneficial. But I wonder how much, I guess maybe there's different ways. Like how much traveling would you actually get to do? Because you could be immersed in a different culture, that's for sure. But I imagine if you go to Japan and you teach English there, you're not gonna see that much of Japan
Mm-hmm.
unless you really make an effort, like on your weekends or whatever, to go
Yeah.
do it. But then that's gonna be really expensive.
I mean, yeah, it definitely would be. Yeah, it would be expensive. Good point.
To like, yeah, spend your weekends like, okay, I'm gonna go to see Mount Fuji now.
Yeah. But I would have a relative surplus. I think that, like, because socially too, like not knowing anyone or being in somewhere so foreign to, like, I feel like you would save money on like the distraction. I mean,
yeah.
like, I think that, like, I spend a million times more money than I did in Orlando and Milwaukee just because I have so many friends here that, like, I'm being asked to do so and so or such and such on this day with so and so, and just I just wake up. I mean, bar tabs, which I might do in Japan by myself anyway, but at least.
Yeah, if you're buying alcohol, audience listener, just do it at the grocery store,
Yeah, and get some of your friends together.
4 times as much money than if you go to the bar.
100%.
Yeah, I guess
bars suck anyway. The people at bars suck. Most people at bars.
You think so? Doesn't it depend on the bar?
It depends on the bar, definitely, but
going to the wrong bars, I think.
Yeah, if most youngsters at bars suck. Just put that out there.
Have you ever gotten in a bar fight? Like, is this...
yeah, we have been in a bar fight. It's
okay.
Actually a really funny story. I don't know if you've heard.
Was it the one at Art Bar with?
Yeah,
Emma?
It is. Yeah. So we were with. It was 4 of my friends, and one of them I was going on a date with. It was my first date, by the way.
Great first date.
And our friend Emma and the girl that I was going on a date with were doing karaoke, and some ladies in the back of the bar just started yelling, "You suck," like out of nowhere. And I didn't even realize that this was going on, but the girls came back from their song and they're like, "These girls are just yelling, 'You suck,'" And we were like, "What? Yeah, that's weird," And then they started like interacting with these girls that were on this balcony, kind of like looking down. Like, "Why were you yelling 'you suck' at us?" When we're like, "Well, you're whores," randomly, like what? Out of nowhere. and the girl that I was on the date with was like, "Well, that's kind of your opinion, like that's not really, that doesn't constitute." But and they just were being really hostile and weird, and so we just kind of started like heckling them. Like, we left them alone, but we were making faces at them, and we were definitely doing nana boo boo type of shit, like And then these girls stood up to leave, and one of them had like a empty can of New Glarus in her hand. She walked up to Emma and she threw it in her face, like right in her face. And our friend stood up and punched her. And it was like, it started this like brawl. And all of a sudden, I got arms flailing at me, and I'm like grabbing, like, and also I'm in a bar fight with like chicks too. Like, I don't want to like, hit a girl in the face. So I'm kind of just like pushing and stuff. And then we all got like, forcibly, like the managers came and they're like, "Everybody get the fuck out of here," We're like, "We didn't do anything," like they started it. Totally worked. Sob story. If you're ever in a bar fight, just start crying and you'll get out of it. But it was pretty wild. And our bar's a pretty chill place.
Yeah, I've been there.
Like, it doesn't
seem like the place.
Seem like the place to get in a bar fight. But that's the only bar fight I've ever been in.
Oh, okay. So what's making you say that the young people at bars suck? If that's the only bar fight.
True. I don't know. I can't stand like the bar culture. Like bar. I can't stand listening to like the fucking top 50 2000 songs,
Okay.
over and over again. Like, just not for me, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never really go to bars anyway either, so definitely not for me.
Yeah. I like those towny, like little bars, like dive bars, with a bunch of old guys.
yeah. The guys who go there like every single day.
Oh yeah, the regulars.
They're probably there at
They look like old sailors.
early afternoon.
Stories.
Yeah.
That's my crowd.
They're just lifelong alcoholics. That's your crowd.
that's my crowd.
Yeah, so I guess on the one hand, you've got chasing the comedy dreams, On the other hand, you've got chasing the travel dreams and also earning more money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the bright side is if either one you choose, so long as you choose one of those two, you're leading a pretty interesting life.
Yeah, that's what I always want to keep it, I think, interesting.
Yeah.
At the very least,
Stuck between the two choices and not choosing either one is less interesting. You're still pursuing the comedy, so it's still interesting. But like, yeah, if you just stay without going to pursue either of the dreams, then that's the real killer.
Yeah, if nothing else, I would like to lead an interesting life,
Stuck between choices like that, I feel like it's hard to ever actually come to a decision that you feel completely good about. You're not gonna regret in any way. You just gotta choose one at random.
Well, yeah, that's flip a coin. That's the thing. Like, I don't think that there's any decision, especially a big decision like that you can avoid regretting.
Yeah.
You can't avoid regret. Like, that's something that I've learned from moving to Florida, I think, is that I don't think that it was good or bad. There were great things that came out of it. I mean, I started comedy when I did. Who knows when I would have done that, or if I would have done that, or, the time was perfect. The situation was perfect. The environment was perfect. Who I am right now is largely dependent on that move and that choice, so who's saying that it was bad at all, but who's saying who I would be without that? Maybe I would be a much more healthy individual, or who knows? Maybe I'd cure cancer. Maybe by last year.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess the whole like no regrets thing. That tattoo of in the movie that We're the Millers with the no regrets, and they're like, really not even one letter because it's spelled with an A. Yeah, I don't know. It's like hard because I feel like regrets, when people say they've got no regrets, I usually don't believe them.
Yeah.
But then also it's like, I guess regret is like a mindset of like, yeah, there's definitely things in any individual's life that they wish they wouldn't have done or wish they would have done differently. But then I guess it depends on just how much they're dwelling on it. And maybe that's what they mean when they say they have no regrets. It's like they try not to dwell on the past. And
yeah. I think that it's impossible to live life without regrets. It's just more about, like you said, like
how much they weigh on you.
How much they weigh on you. Yeah. And I think that it's also hard for regrets to weigh on you in a hard or like a substantial way if you're not making like large decisions. If all the decisions you make are very linear, then it would be harder to really regret that many things. Like,
wait, so you think the regret is bigger the bigger decisions you make?
I think there's more to regret the bigger decision you make, potentially.
Really? So I don't know. Maybe I feel the opposite way. I feel like the bigger regrets you have in life are the opportunities that you didn't go for, rather than like the wrong opportunities, I guess. Like if you just decided to not pursue any big leap.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If you just kind of live your life meekly, I feel like you'll have more to regret in the end than if you took a big jump and you could have taken a different big jump. But maybe that's just my thinking.
Yeah, 100%.
Other people don't feel the same way.
Yeah, I think that maybe the people that are inclined to regret might not look at it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I think that I don't regret much in life so far. Maybe college, but that's maybe my choice in academia. But other than that, I feel like I've done an all right job.
I sometimes fall into patterns of like getting caught up on the past or like things I could have done differently. Usually it's after I wake up in a day, like I've been dreaming about some aspect of the past. So then it's like kind of weighing on me in the beginning of the day. And it's like at some point I have to shake that off and forget about it because I can't change it. So I don't know. I'm more of a past thinker.
Mine's more like consistent.
Oh, okay.
Like I kind of like understand and accept that going to Full Sail for college was a terrible choice that I will never get back and that constantly haunts me. But like, wow. It's not something that I can change anymore. Yeah. So I guess I can only do, hey, I've got a college degree, so.
Yeah,
it's something.
More than I've got.
Oh, well, you'll have one soon enough.
Yeah, in like 6 months or something.
Cool.
one topic that I kind of wanted to talk about that I feel like is similar to the stand-up comedy is like music and performing music, because you are in a band, singer of a band.
This is the topic that I dread.
Why?
Because I love, doing it, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But maybe this is me looking down on my abilities, or but it's something that I've never felt talented in. I took guitar lessons when I was a kid. When I was younger, 15 or 14 or so, 13. I don't remember, but it keeps going down.
Did you take like guitar lessons for a while?
I took guitar lessons for like 2 years, and I just was never like into it enough. I didn't care enough to practice. I guess like a lot of different things besides stand up in life that I just wasn't like too passionate about it. So and I love music. I'm very passionate about music in general, like a consumer of music.
Right.
I've always been. But it's never been something that I felt inclined to do, and being in a band now and like doing it, has opened my eyes to like, practice and like getting better at something like that you may have never thought that you can do. I can, do it more than I ever thought that I would or could.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I still don't. It's kind of imposter syndrome.
Oh, really? Okay.
Especially with my brother upstairs playing the fucking accordion, like bro just picks up any instrument and can play it, it's insane.
Yeah, I always felt like one of the least musically talented people in my family, because like, well, maybe not least, but two of my brothers and also my dad, they're all much more musically inclined than I am, and I took lessons as a kid, not guitar. I took trumpets, did like percussion. I tried to teach myself guitar, like a few songs, like a couple times, and I always got easily frustrated, like quickly frustrated at that, because guitar is just annoying to play. Yeah, and I don't know, I kind of feel that too, of always really like enjoying music as a music consumer, and I like the idea of creating music. I just don't feel like I've got the talent.
Yeah, and I think that is like relatively a mental block, obviously, but it's always just been something that's like, well, if you're not going to put the time into it to be really good, then like fuck off. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But I have really enjoyed the time that performing and like that aspect of it.
So why do you dread it then if you like it? Like, doesn't the enjoyment of, or dread the topic anyway, doesn't the enjoyment of performing music kind of motivate you to do it more and more?
For sure. Yeah, it's something that I think that I'll continue to do throughout my life, whether or not I have no real goal in sustaining, a music career, professionally. But it's something that I think now, from doing it for almost a year now, that I really enjoy doing as a hobby, and will continue to do it. And I'd like to continue to do it, I as long as I can.
Do you enjoy more the just like playing aspect, or playing in a group, or is it the performing in front of people? That's better.
Music is really rewarding in a different sense than comedy, where like it's self-rewarding, when you hear it. I guess maybe it is a similar way to comedy, I guess, like, but it's not like feedback from an audience or from, it's more about, like a self-feedback loop where like you play something right, or you play it, it sounds really good, and you go, well, yeah, that was really nice, and that's pleasing to the ears, and that's that is one of the best parts about it, is like when me and my bandmates are hanging out, playing, practicing, and or coming up with something, and it works really well. And that's like really rewarding, And then also I do, I enjoy performing, from stand up, I think that's kind of ingrained, but I do just genuinely enjoy being enjoyed, I guess.
Do you write like music, or like who's the one primarily, do you think, coming up with the new music?
Primarily it would be our two guitarists. So my brother Chase and one of my best friends Kendall. And I've written 2 or 3 songs now, which is something I never thought that I would, do, which is cool.
Do you think there's any like similarities between writing music and writing new jokes or like stand-up comedy?
Yeah, definitely similarities, but writing jokes sucks way worse. Yeah.
Why is that?
It's way more tedious.
Oh, okay.
Like music, I feel like you can try it. There's like a trial and error, where comedy is like you have to try it on stage and you go through this like, appeal process, this like bureaucracy part of it. And music, it's like if it sounds good and it works, then
Right. Yeah, you just like you were saying before, you can hear it yourself of whether that's sounds good.
Yeah.
But like I guess like writing lyrics.
That sucks. Yeah, yeah, I fucking hate that. I write those lyrics, and I never think anything I write lyric wise is good. Never. I've never written any. I've never sang anything into a mic that I felt like really good about, and I feel like that's also like this idea of like not being musically inclined. I'm doing the air quotes, by the way, for listeners, but. That's one thing that I've never felt like, it's like a self-deprecation piece, I guess.
No, I'm the same way. I've basically my whole life just thought of myself as a bad singer. Mm-hmm. And there's been times where I've had to sing in front of an audience, and it is, I hate it so much because I just know, like, I'm just like, this sounds awful. They're all like cringing right now. And then that probably makes it even worse. Yeah. And yeah, especially what's worse than even just like performing a song in front of an audience is the audition for performing the song, because there's fewer people in the audience. That's maybe not the worst part. The worst part is that like it's usually less musical accompaniment. There's less other voices. Even if you're doing a solo on stage, there's music happening. But often if you're auditioning, like it's just your voice in an auditorium. Yeah, that's horrible.
And it reverberates. It comes straight back to you.
You're like, oh, that's what I sound like.
Great. Yeah. It's not really the singing or the actual performance of it. I've really enjoyed that part. Okay. It's like the writing, like the lyric writing, like writing words down and being, oh, that's profound. Yeah. Like I hate that. I just, I never think that it's good enough, or especially like, since I hold my music taste to a standard, I think that like I have a decent music taste at least, that these people that I listen to are like phenomenal, and I just never feel like I can, live up to that standard or to, standards of others that are musically inclined, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, that's also anxiety and
the self-doubt.
Yeah.
It's kind of a subtle recurring theme throughout these things we've been talking about a little bit.
You're becoming my analyst now. Analyst is a dated term for that too. Therapist.
Yeah. In school with your creative writing program, did you have any classes that were about like lyric writing or anything like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Although Full Sail is a huge music production school.
Oh, really? Music and video games?
Yeah.
Interesting combo. Oh, just production in general, creative endeavors. Okay. But usually one thing I like to end podcasts on is a recommendation from you to the audience of something to do. It doesn't really have to relate exactly to what we've been talking about, but it can. Yeah, I guess this comes from something I read on like Reddit once. It was just a story that somebody told about somebody they met before, and they met this person and they like had one of those movie or like book days where it's like this person was just like super like charismatic, and they went and they like really like deeply connected with somebody for one day, and then they never saw them again. But what this person did is they said like they're going to exchange two things that the other person has to do in their life. Like, I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to tell me something. And we're both going to do them, and our lives are both going to be enriched by it.
Okay.
So that's the kind of vibe that I like to get from my podcast guest, is something that you think will enrich the lives of the listeners that they can go do. Or, I can go do.
Yeah, okay. I have so many friends that, I feel like most everyone wants to or is creative in some sense, whether that's doing music or art or stand-up or video game design, anything, like that. There are so many people that want to do something, that just don't do it because it's uncomfortable, or they are starting from net zero, or they, they don't know like the proper way that you would get into something, or and I implore people, and this is coming from, I guess, the stand-up background, is that just try it out, whether it's painting or stand-up, or
whatever that creative
whatever that
spark is
creative drive is that you've always had, that you think that you're not good enough to do, or it seems unaccomplishable or insurmountable. Just try it. You might suck. Maybe you're awful at it. But at least you did it. And there you go. You wouldn't have regrets about it if you try it.
I mean, there is a space that can be comfortable to live in, of having an idea of something that you'd really like to go do. Maybe it's like you imagine yourself to be, you have a great painting with you, and you just know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And there's a space that you can live in where you've never tried it. So you don't know that you're bad, but you can imagine that you're good. Right. Yeah. So then when you do try it, you're like, oh, fuck, my whole life dream is ruined because I imagined this painting will exist someday. And now I know it never will.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that I think that you should go do it. And even if you're absolutely awful at it, then maybe you pick
a new one. Still worth doing?
Yeah,
pick a new thing after?
I think it's like as a self-reflection.
Oh, okay.
Like
that's
as a
for
growth
self-growth,
piece, like
probably healthier for you
to
try and get that painting out of you rather than just keep it inside the whole time.
Like I've had a thing like that. Like I've wanted to, start painting or start doing art, and I haven't started doing that because maybe it's because you say like, oh, I think I might be all right at it, and like maybe I should just do it to see if I'm all right at it, and maybe I suck, and then I won't do it anymore. But at least I try to do it, or maybe you keep doing it even if you suck, just because you like doing it, and
maybe in 20 years or whatever, how long it takes, you will be able to produce that thing that was in your head.
True.
Usually I feel like with these things, like perfection is the idea of perfection is like your worst enemy.
It holds you back.
You're like, I needed to do it this way, and if it's not this way, it's not worth doing. It's like, no, it's still worth doing.
100%. I mean, like that comes into play with stand-up. I'm not perfect at stand-up by any means. Sometimes I have great nights, but any set that I ever do, I'll be able to watch on, if I film it or if I record it audio-wise.
Like see a mistake that you could
see something. You know what I'm saying? So you'll never be perfect. No one will ever be perfect.
My main creative endeavor that I've been spending too long on is trying to make a board game. And that's like a process that
awesome.
Seems to be never ending. But I do take enjoyment from it. And it's something I'm like working on basically constantly.
That's like a real puzzle too.
Especially, it's like every single time you make a prototype, you realize a flaw in it, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. So it's a lot of iteration and recreation.
That's cool. What are your favorite? You play D&D?
Yeah. I've been playing D&D for several years now. It's pretty fun. Although, I don't know, it's got its flaws, which is kind of motivating some of my ideas.
Look how many people love and enjoy and play D&D.
Also, I realized, so maybe I could just spend a few minutes talking about this. I realized I never answered your question. You asked me about teaching in a different country.
Oh, yes.
And where I went and what I did. What did you want to know? Just to
what country did you go to first and foremost?
I went to France because awesome. I spent middle school, high school in French classes. So I was like, well, I already know French better than I know any other foreign language. So I might as well go there. If I'm going to be dealing with people who don't speak English very well. The goal is to teach them English. And then in exchange, they kind of teach me French a little bit.
Where in France?
It was a town called Fougères, which is in the Brittany region, which is... It's kind of weird because it's called Brittany, and it is next to Britain, really. It's
really?
South-ish of Great Britain. It's the easternmost kind of jutting out part of France. It's a bit south of Normandy area. The capital in that region is Rennes.
And how do you like it?
It's a few hours drive from Paris. I really liked it. It's like it was only 2-ish months. I was actually doing the what's the word I'm looking for, like homestay thing, because I was living with a family teaching their kids English, for 2 months. I was doing that for 2 months, but then at the tail end of it, I did some like other travel. I went to Paris for
Yeah.
like a week or so. So I attached some extra time on the end to see
By
other parts of
yourself?
France.
You just went out and
Yeah.
that's. I had a friend that she finished her bachelor's or undergrad in Ireland for the last 3 months, and then since June 6th, it's what, July 27th right now. She has been backpacking through Europe, south. Like, and now she's in Portugal. And she's telling me, like, if you do it, like, do it alone. Like, it's so much more, like, beneficial to your, growth, and it's worth all the trouble and consequence, I guess, to figure it out for yourself.
Just like what you did with just going into a different place and going to college there right after high school. What I did after college, I just went to New Zealand and backpacked there by myself.
Really?
So yeah, I definitely encourage solo travel.
Yeah.
At least a few times, because there's something differently rewarding about solo versus group travel. But yeah, definitely for growth and like self-discovery.
So you don't regret
No.
France? Okay.
No, I don't regret going to France. Yeah, I look back on that as like an era of my life that was really developmental, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes these sorts of things that like defining eras of your life or like things you did, it's hard to define exactly how they changed you, but you know that they did.
Yes.
So it's like that.
But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently that was about that same like kind of idea. That like there's no way to like effectively determine like tangible development or positive, but there's also no way to determine like negative either. Like so it's neutral always. Like there's never. I feel like you can't determine as a person like what's the good and the bad.
I feel like we have to get more into that. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess in one sense it's hard to know like what the effects or what the outcome will be of the things that you do and the changes that have happened to you. Like like you can't know if going to Austin for comedy or going to Japan for teaching will be better or worse than the alternative. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, there are changes that can happen to you that you can identify as being
negative.
I
agree because that would, if there weren't, then I'd be one of those everything happens for a reason types, and I don't really enjoy those types. So I get what you're saying.
I mean, I suppose in a sense, like you could say there's always good contained within the bad. Like if you become a meth addict and then you are homeless on the streets for 14 years and you have to struggle your way out of it, like I'd say that's pretty negative. But you've grown in some ways as a person because of that. Like but probably overall less beneficial than that not having happened.
Probably. But who knows? Maybe if you didn't become a meth addict, you would have died.
That's, that is possible.
Yeah.
Maybe in some circuitous route, you'll end up crazily successful and happy in life.
If
and
you wouldn't become a meth addict.
Maybe, yeah. But I think odds are that that's less likely.
I mean, odds. If we're talking about math.
Yeah. But anyway, so this work experience, it was with Green Heart Travel. I did mention that part, and then I got sidetracked in some other thought for half an hour. So it's this program that you can go to online, and basically you can choose like 1, 2, or 3 months, and then there's certain countries that they do it in. Like there's France and like Thailand, and like Vietnam, and like some countries like Guatemala and whatnot, that just kind of various places throughout the world. You live in somebody's house, or family's house usually, probably, because I think the idea is you're always teaching members of the family, whoever they are. I guess in the case, I wasn't just teaching the 2 kids, I was also teaching the mom. The dad, I guess he was too busy for lessons. And then you choose the amount of time, and depending on the amount of time you choose, it costs more or less. For the longer you do it, it costs more. And then you get some referral person to write a letter for you. I chose my high school French teacher to write me a letter. And then you kind of write a bio about yourself and exchange a little bit of communication with the family who's looking at, picking you up to see if you'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
And they say, yep, you're all set. And then you go off and live with them for a while. So not only do you have to pay like the company, which maybe this is all around a bad decision, but I was like 21 didn't really know very other methods of doing the thing I wanted to do. So like pay the Green Heart travel for the program, and then also pay for the flight ticket. So like for 2 months of travel, it was kind of expensive. But I don't know. I just wanted to go somewhere else for
Yeah,
a while.
and like totally jump in
Yeah.
to that culture too. My stepdad, one of his best friends did something similar where he lived with a French family, and you just reminded me of this. But they were like going through a divorce at the time, and they were like abusive. Like they would have like crazy blowout fights while he was there.
That's weird. Did they have
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking like, why would they get a homestay person while they're getting divorced? But then I guess maybe they're trying to use it to cushion.
Who knows? I don't even know. I just kind of made the divorce thing up, but they were going through, obviously.
Oh, they were going through
some
marital
sort
struggles.
Problems where they were like, like almost physically, like pots and pans and shit. And just so maybe that's
Maybe
that's
they're
a
hoping...
negative experience.
Yeah.
And maybe he regrets it. I should ask.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was a pretty great experience. I spent, there was like a couple lessons a week that I did with each of the people who I was teaching. And then the family would try to take me and show me different things around France and different like cultural stuff. That was really cool. Like we would go off to lots of cities, and I would meet their friends. Like I don't know if it was just because I was there and they were trying to introduce me to a lot, but that family, it seemed like most nights they had friends over for dinner, and like every single week, like maybe multiple times a week, they would like have like big like social like events, like big parties where like they seemed like they had so many friends, all these different people they knew. So there's just always new French people to meet and to talk to.
And did most of them speak English?
Actually, a lot of them did, yeah.
Is it true that they're snobby about Americans? Do they not like Americans?
I don't know. Like, so they weren't like snobby about me. They thought I was like interesting, like, oh, like an American boy. But maybe like Americans as a group, they might be.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. They weren't like weird. They didn't act weird to me anyway.
If I was French, I'd hate Americans too, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was like in 2016 when like, Trump was running for president, and then when he got elected.
It was that recent?
Yeah.
It was during all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were like, it was Americans and how crazy they are were a common topic because of the fact that they elected Trump. But yeah, I feel like for the most part, I didn't notice that much snobbery.
That's just a trope, apparently. You hear. My friend just went to Montpellier he finished his semester there.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, that was something that was on my mind for a little while, to try and like do a semester abroad in France. Didn't do it. But yeah, definitely recommend. Not necessarily the same way I did it, but teaching English as a foreign language.
Yeah, I'm definitely very interested in doing that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good way to travel.
Oh yeah. And definitely just travel while you're young as well.
All right.
Yeah. That's about the end of the episode, probably.
Yeah. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah, thanks for being on this episode.
Of course, thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah,
great conversation. I'd love to be back if you want to.
In my head, I have a rule I haven't completely followed, but I'm trying to follow of no repeats within 10 episodes, just to keep it variety for the listener. But yeah, definitely love to have you back on.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, and thank you for listening.